If you are Muslim, I love you. If you are Christian, I love you. If you are capitalist, I love you. If you are communist, I love you. If you are black, I love you. You are white, I love you. Love does not discriminate against anyone. Love is universal.
Exactly.
Love is not if you are good to me, I love you. If you are not good to me, I don't love you. That's not love. Love has to be unconditional. So I said, whatever your country, humanity comes before nationality. Before I'm an Indian, I'm a human being. If you go as an Indian, you meet a Pakistani or an Afghanistani or a Russian. If you go as a Hindu, you meet a Muslim or a Christian or a Buddhist. But if you go as a human being, you meet human beings everywhere. So you have to rise above your narrow thinking that I'm an Indian, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm this, I'm that. To make peace in the world, you have to love everybody without any condition, without any judgment, without any ifs and buts. You love full stop, unconditionally.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. I have to say, this is the first time I have ever recorded without my headphones and my microphone. It just broke right before we started, but I didn't want to reschedule with my guest. He's wonderful, and I can't wait to introduce you to him. I'm so excited about his book. This is the holiday season. I hope you are expressing yourself as love and joy and harmony in this world as we remember the reason for the season and the rebirth within us as our authentic, wonderful God selves. So that's my little message. And I'm just so grateful that you all are here. Now, let me introduce my guest. He's a peace and environmental activist and former Jain monk. Satish Kumar has been quietly setting this global agenda for change for more than 50 years. He settled in the United Kingdom after an 8,000-mile peace pilgrimage. He was the editor of Resurgence magazine from 1973 until 2016. And over the decades, he's been the guiding spirit behind internationally respected ecological and educational ventures, including Devon's Schumacher College, authoring several books, including Elegant Simplicity, and presenting the BBC documentary Earth Pilgrim. As a teacher and embodiment of ecological and spiritual principles of living simply, he inspires people to transform themselves and consequently transform the world. His latest book is titled Soil, Soul, and Society, and we're going to be centering our conversation on that amazing book today. Welcome, Satish. Am I saying your name correctly?
No, it's wonderful. You put everything correctly.
Okay, okay. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you. And I thought before we started, you could tell us a little bit about your remarkable life. It is unusual. You were a monk at a really young age and you did a long pilgrimage. Tell us a little bit about all that and just your spiritual journey.
Thank you, thank you. It's my great pleasure to be your guest, and eventually we will talk about soul society. But I was born in Rajasthan, India, in 1936. When I was 4 years old, Carol, my father died. And my mother was crying, my sisters were crying, my brothers were crying, and everybody was crying. And the father was not moving. So I said, what has happened? I asked my mother, why are you crying? And why father is not moving? And why everybody is so sad? And my mother said, now your father is dead and he will never speak to us again. And that shocked me. And I said, what is dying? And she said, everybody die. I said, Mother, will you die? Yes, I will also die. Mother, will I die? Yes, you will also die. That shook me. So from that time, you can imagine from age 4, I started to wonder, what is this death? And then slowly I started to ask, is there a way to stop people dying? Is there a way to stop death? That was my big quest. And that quest led me to become a Jain monk. Because the Jain monks say that in order to be free of the cycle of birth and death, you have to renounce the world. and live a very pious and very spiritual life. So I said, I will do anything to stop death. So from age 9 to 18, I was a Jain monk. Then at age 18, Carol, I had a dream. And Mahatma Gandhi came in my dream. And he said to me that how many people can become monks? Only few. That means the spirituality becomes exclusive to few monks. But spirituality should be available to everybody in the world. And therefore, come back in the world and practice spirituality in the world. And that was my dream. And so that shook me, another big change in my life. And I said, Gandhi is right. We have to practice spirituality in the world. Our farming should be spiritual, our politics should be spiritual, our business should be spiritual. And Mahatma Gandhi said that what makes any action spiritual? If you do it for selfish reasons, for self ego, for your own wealth, for your own money, for your own name, for your own fame, that's not spiritual. But if you do it for service, you grow food for service, you teach for service, you look after health for service. If you do it out of love and service, every action, whatever you do, becomes spiritual. That teaching appealed me. And so I left the monastic order one night after midnight because I had taken the vow for whole life. But one night after midnight, inspired by Gandhi, I escaped from the monastery, ran away after everybody was asleep. I ran away. And I joined a Gandhian community, a Gandhian ashram, and lived there as a kind of practicing spirituality in the world. And then at age 26, I had another big awakening. And that was a great man in England, a philosopher, a writer, a thinker, a Nobel Prize winning author called Bertrand Russell. He was protesting against the nuclear bomb. And while he was protesting, he was arrested and put in jail. And I read this. And when I read this, I said, wow, here is a man of 90 going to jail for peace in the world. What am I doing, young man, sitting here drinking coffee? I must do something for peace in the world. And having been a Jain monk and learned about non-violence, and having been a Gandhian, learned about peace, inspired by Bertrand Russell, that came easily to me. And so I said, what should I do? And I was with a friend, and I said, my friend, how about going to Moscow, Paris, London, Washington on foot, walking like a monk and promoting peace? And my friend said, but I don't know how to walk such a long distance. You were a monk, you can do it, but I can't. I said, but I'll teach you how to walk. But at that time, I did not know English. And my friend was educated in the university, so he spoke English. So I said, you teach me English, and I'll teach you how to walk. And so we had a good deal. And so my friend and I came together, and we started from the grave of Mahatma Gandhi, and we started to walk from India to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Armenia, Georgia, Russia, Moscow. And then from Moscow, we walked to Belarusia, Poland, Germany, Belgium, France, England. Then we met Bertrand Russell. And Bertrand Russell was very happy to see two young men walking for peace from India to England. And he was very happy to meet us and blessed us and encouraged us. And we were walking without any money, Carol, without a single dollar, single cent, single penny in our pocket. Because we said the war begins in fear, peace begins in trust. So we have to trust people, we have to trust ourselves and make peace in the world. So Bertrand Russell said, it's amazing that you have walked from India to England without money. But if you want to go to America, you can't walk on water. Can I give you some money? I want to help you. So I said to Bertrand Russell that we don't want to take any money, but if you can help us with 2 tickets, we'll be grateful. So he helped us to get 2 tickets in Queen Mary, a very beautiful, big, luxurious boat. And so we sailed from England to New York, and we walked from New York to Washington. And we started our journey in Delhi from the grave of Mahatma Gandhi. And we ended our journey at the grave of John F. Kennedy. So from grave
Oh,
to
wow.
grave, 15 countries we passed through, 8,000 miles, 13,000 kilometers without any money. And to make point that if you believe in the gun, a gun can kill a Gandhi. A gun can kill a Kennedy. So don't trust in violence, don't trust in bombs, and believe in peace. And then we met Martin Luther King. That was a wonderful meeting. After meeting Bertrand Russell in England, we met Martin Luther King in Atlanta, Georgia, at his house. And he was a great man of peace and was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. With a big picture of Mahatma Gandhi on the wall behind his desk. And that was very inspiring. And so then we were invited to go to Japan. And so we went to Tokyo and we walked from Tokyo to Hiroshima another 45 days because Hiroshima was the first victim of the bomb. And so that way, we concluded our journey in Hiroshima. And then, with the help of Japanese people, we sailed in a boat to Mumbai, Bombay. And we came back after 2.5 years of that journey without any money for peace. So that was my sort of pilgrimage for peace. And then, of course,
Wow.
as you have said, I edited a magazine, I wrote books, and I live in England, so I've done lots of things. But that's a little bit of my story in a nutshell.
It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. First, I want to start off by when you talked about what spirituality is. I really like your definition that it really is living in the world because, like, my podcast is called The Spiritual Forum, and people think it's about crystals and angels and mediums and fantastical experiences, and it can be that, but it really is living. It is really living the God centered, spiritual centered life
Yeah,
and all that you do, and it does belong in every aspect of our
yeah,
life.
yeah,
It's not separate from our
yes.
family and our.
The key to spirituality is love. And I think
Uh-huh.
Christian tradition has taught love, but all religions, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Christians, Jewish, whatever, whichever your religion, I think true religion is love. Love is our true
Absolutely.
religion. And if you practice love, and if you do whatever you are doing out of love for the world, love for nature, love for people, love for yourself, love at every level, then whatever you do is beautiful and pure and spiritual. So for me, everything else is fine. Mediums are fine, and spiritual messengers are fine, and all the books are fine. But actual practice of love is real religion for me.
It You're right. It is. It is. I love that. I love how clear you were on that. And your pilgrimage was so interesting. I think in your book you talked about how when you were leaving, didn't you have like family or relatives that were there to give you food or something along the way? And you even refused that.
That's right. That's right. My friend, it was a friend of mine, a woman friend,
Okay.
and she came to say that you are going without money and without food. And first country you are going to is Pakistan, and Pakistan is our enemy. We had 3 wars between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. And you go without money, without food. How are you going to survive in this enemy country, Muslim countries? So I said, we have to trust. And so I cannot take food with me. The parcels of food you have brought for me is parcels of mistrust. And you cannot bring peace in the world if you have mistrust in your heart. You have to trust the world, and the wars begin in fear, and peace begins in trust. So I will trust myself, I will trust everybody. And so I went into Pakistan without any food. And I was amazed that somebody welcomed me in Pakistan and said, I'm for peace. We should not have any war between India and Pakistan. Let's live in peace and so on. And so I said to myself that I will not fear death. Fear is no good. Even if death comes, if I die while walking for peace, that is a good death. I'm in the battlefield for peace. And if I don't get food, I'll stay hungry and fast. Fasting is good. And if I don't get shelter, I'll sleep under the stars. And with my million-star hotel. Who cares for five-star hotel? And so that way, I told myself to have a no fear, have a courage, and just if hardship come, difficulties come, they're welcome. I climbed mountains. I went through deserts. I went through snow. I went through forests and jungles, and everywhere hardship is fine. You have, you can't do peace pilgrimage on foot without money around the world without facing hardship. But hardship is good for you. It makes you more resilient and makes you more strong. If you go by aeroplane and in a first class cabin and have a comfortable food and a comfortable hotel, that not makes you any pilgrim. So pilgrimage is to accept life as it is, normal life. And so that's how it was my peace pilgrimage. I was a pilgrim. I was not a tourist. You can go as a tourist, that's a different. But I was not going as a tourist. I was going as a pilgrim.
What a interesting story. Did you ever encounter any adversarial people?
Yes, yes, I did encounter some adversarial people. They were saying, "Oh, you are a communist, or you are a capitalist, or you are this, or you are that," and we have to be realistic, and we can't trust Russia, or we can't trust America, or we can't this, or we can't trust that. There were lots of opposition and lots of difficulties, and sometimes I had to climb very high mountains, and I had to go through deserts, and I had to. Sometimes people did not give me food, so I had to stay hungry. I had to sleep out in the kind of under the stars. All those things happened, but I welcomed that. I did not see that as a kind of any problem. I said that's a part of the pilgrimage. Pilgrimage is not
Yeah.
sleeping in a hotel room and flying in an aeroplane. Pilgrimage is to walking like Jesus Christ or St. Francis. We have to live a simple life, and difficulties are welcome.
Yes, yes. I get the difficulties of weather and circumstances like that. I was just wondering if you ever met up with people who were hostile towards you.
Yeah, they were. And so when you are in America, go to Russia, go to Cuba. Or when you are in Russia, go to America. They are the enemies. So that kind of hassle,
Yeah,
yeah, you get it.
yeah, yeah. The whole enemy thing. It's kind of set
I
up
said
for us to like.
everywhere that if you are Muslim, I love you. If you are Christian, I love you. If you are capitalist, I love you. If you are communist, I love you. You are black, I love you. You are white, I love you. Love does not discriminate against anyone. Love is universal.
Exactly.
Love is not if you are good to me, I love you. If you are not good to me, I don't love you. That's not love. Love has to be unconditional. So I said, whatever your country, humanity comes before nationality. Before I'm an Indian, I'm a human being. If you go as an Indian, you meet a Pakistani or an Afghanistani or a Russian. If you go as a Hindu, you meet a Muslim or a Christian or a Buddhist. But if you go as a human being, you meet human beings everywhere. So you have to rise above your narrow thinking that I'm an Indian, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm this, I'm that. To make peace in the world, you have to love everybody without any condition, without any judgment, without any ifs and buts. You love, full stop, unconditionally. That was my peace. Message of peace is to love everyone, without any judgment, without any condition.
That's the spiritual life. That's it. And I know let's get into your book and let's talk about soil because your expression of love goes beyond the human boundary. Your expression of love, it includes all of creation.
Yes,
It includes all of nature. It
yes,
includes the animals. It includes the plants. And I'd love to talk about that. So your book is called Soil, Soul, and Society,
yes.
and you're presenting it as kind of a new trinity to 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 create a new world. And I love everything about this vision that you have. So why don't we start talking about what soil is, then we'll move into
Yes,
soul
yes.
and society.
You know, creation is created by God, if you believe in God, and then the creation is sacred. It's God's gift to everybody. And so we have to celebrate nature. And everything is nature. The word human comes from Latin humus. And humus, Carol, means soil. So human beings are literally soil beings. Our bodies are made of soil. Our food we eat is soil transformed into mangoes and apples and oranges and bananas and bread and rice and whatever vegetables you are eating. They're all soil transformed. Our wood is soil transformed. Our fruit is soil transformed. Our clothes are soil transformed. Soil is the source of life. And we forget the soil. We think soil is dead. Soil is inanimate. Soil is nothing. And soil has no life. So we put chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides, and we see soil as a dirt. I said dirt is not dirty. Soil is not dirty. Soil is sacred. We have to look after soil, and soil will look after us. Soil is a source of life. At the moment, our world sees soil and nature as a resource for the economy.
Mhm.
Nature has become just a means to an end. The end is profit, money, business, industry, all that. I said this is not right. Soil is not a means to an end. Soil is not a resource for the economy. Soil and nature are life itself. Life cannot exist without soil. Life cannot exist without nature. Life is made of earth, air, fire, water, the four elements. And all your industry and business and money and so on will not be of any use unless you have a soil, unless you have food, unless you have a air, unless you have water, unless you have fire. Those are the basic elements. And we humans have taken that for granted. And we think, oh,
Mhm.
earth, air, fire, water are all taken for granted. And so we are polluting our water, polluting our air, we are creating global warming, creating climate change. So we are treating nature and soil as if it has no value. Whereas the soil and nature has the most important and most fundamental value. And all our buildings and motorways and airports and railways and business centers and Wall Street and all those are icing on the cake. The real cake is soil. And the money and profit is icing. But we have become icing obsessed, and we have forgotten the cake. We have forgotten nature, which is our life itself. Nature is life itself. So this is why I put soil at the first of my Trinity.
I think that's so interesting because, you know, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, we talk about the Adam man, where Adam is made out of the soil, is
Yes,
made out
yes,
of the
yes,
dirt. You know, it's a metaphor.
yeah,
It's a metaphor for that we are the soil manifested as a human being,
yes,
and we
exactly.
forget that so much, and we do think about it's just as dirt, and we are, you know, we have a saying that we treat something, we're treated like dirt. You
Yes,
know, there's a
yes,
saying in American or in English that you're treating me like dirt,
yeah.
and that saying shouldn't exist because we should be treating dirt with reverence. We
Reverence,
should be treating him
exactly. So
so
I often
with
say
reverence.
dirt is not dirty, soap is dirty.
I get that. Yeah, soap is like a chemical,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and dirt
yeah,
is like
yeah, yeah,
natural,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Very interesting,
So
and then you
there is a
point
kind
out
of
that we treat.
therapy, natural therapy, where you use soil as a kind of, you put on your body soil as it treats you. If you have a fever, if you have some tummy problem or something, there's a nature therapy. And you use soil as a kind of therapy. So very therapeutic. So we must remember soil is the source of life. We cannot ignore soil. And all our
Yeah,
politicians and business leaders and academics and universities, they forget it. I would say every school, Carol, should have a garden. So that children learn to love soil. Children learn to plant trees and flowers and vegetables and herbs so that they learn how life is maintained. Every university should have a farm so that our young people grow food and cook food and eat food and then learn Shakespeare, then learn mathematics, then learn physics and chemistry and history and anthropology. All those subjects are fine, but without soil, there is nothing. And so every university, every school must have a garden and a farm. And every person who eat should be touching, even a small garden. In a small garden, every household should have a garden. Even in a balcony, you can grow some herbs and some mint and some thyme and some basil or something. Even in your balcony, even in New York, on the roof, you can grow some food. Even on the walls, you can grow some food. We must get back in touch with soil. That is a very important message I am trying to convey in my book.
Yes, yes, I hear you. And you also say in your book, I wrote down this quote: "Education as a monk was not to pass exams and get a job. Education was for the liberation of the soul." And I thought that was really interesting because you just talked about how every educational institution should be growing a garden,
Yes.
and growing a garden is part of growing our soul, right?
Exactly, exactly. They are connected. Soil and soul, very, very close. So what I'm saying in my book is that soil is the external and soul is the internal. So soil has soul, trees have soul, animals have soul, humans have soul. The soul qualities are love, compassion, kindness, generosity, openness, helping each other. That's a soul quality. So if we have a soil and then if you have soul and you have a kindness and compassion and love, that's spirituality, then it's a perfect world. The outer and the inner. You cannot have inner transformation without outer transformation. And you cannot have outer transformation without inner transformation. Inner and outer are like two legs, walking on two legs. You cannot have just one. You cannot have just soil and no soul, no compassion, no kindness, no love. Then soil is just a kind of means to an end. And you cannot have just kind and compassion and love and without food, without clothes, without house. You need those things. So bringing these two together, soul and soul, like kind of a balancing together, that's the message of my book.
Yes. Yes. I think it's interesting that people, I think, overall talk about peace. They talk about how they want to stop war, but they're not necessarily translating that to the inner world, you know? So it's like, I want peace out there, but you really can't have peace out there as long as we're behaving negatively towards ourselves, negatively towards our friends and family and animals and the plants and everything. It it it's a disconnect that we think we can fix something out there without having the reverence in
Yeah,
here
yeah,
as well.
exactly. Yeah. So what I'm saying in my book is that we are physical beings, but we are also spiritual beings. We are body, but we are also soul. Without soul, body is useless. Body is dead. Without soul, there is no body. And without body, soul cannot manifest. So body needs soul, and soul needs body. So we have to take care of our body, and we need to care as the body is the soil, and take care of our soul, which is our kindness, compassion, relationship, friendship, servicing, service to each other, and caring for each other. So care for the soul and care for the soil are two sides of the same coin. And we have forgotten it. We
Mhm.
think that we are just body. We have become materialist. We think that what cannot be measured does not exist. So we don't, I mean, our schools, as I said, every school should have a garden and every university should have a farm. Every school should also teach about soil as well as soul. And every school should teach children how to be kind, how to be loving, how to be humble, how to be polite, how to look after each other. Those spiritual qualities and spiritual values should be part of education. If that is not education, what's the good of being PhD and MA and all the degrees you have? And then you go to war. All our wars are led by highly educated people in Harvard and Yale and a University of California or University of New York or University of Oxford or Cambridge. What's the good of all that education without spirituality and without uh, all our pollution in the world is being brought about by highly educated people. But those highly educated people are the most stupid because they go to war, they destroy nature, and they are creating global warming, and they are polluting our oceans, they are polluting our rivers, they are cutting down our forests. What are they doing? Just money, money, money. That's not education. So our education needs to change and bring soil and soul as a part of our education. Then, of course, you can learn science and physics and mathematics and history and geography and anthropology and psychology. All those are fine, but they are again icing on the cake. The real education is education of heart, education of hand, education of head, education of life, and how to live happily with each other, and how to live happily on this planet Earth, and how to look after our soil, and how to look after each other. That is education. And we have forgotten that. This is why our world is being led by educated people, but we are going into war, Ukraine war, Gaza war. America is
Yeah.
spending billions and billions of dollars around the world on military and
Gene.
bombs. And the same is Russia is doing the same, and China is doing the same. India is doing the same. They're highly educated people, but they are the most stupid people in my view.
Well, you also talk about the importance of decentralization and getting things our lives more focused locally,
Yes.
and that one of the things I absolutely love about your book is you talk about moral education. You also talk that ultimately we want to move towards self-governance versus a centralized government that is dominant and forcing people to behave a certain way. I've always said the same thing, as that ultimately, as we evolve morally and spiritually, we will be self-governed beings.
Yes.
It's not like we need this big government to tell us how to be. We will know how to be.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You know, when you have big government like China, India, Russia, America, big countries, a big government, you don't know who will get into big government power. Sometimes you get good person, sometimes you get bad person. And they have so much power, so much money, billions and
Yes.
billions of dollars to spend. So they can misuse power. They can use power for good as well if they are good people, but very rarely you get a saintly spiritual being in a high power. Mostly they are militaristic, or they are very kind of materialistic or something like that. So I would say having so much centralized power at the top in Washington or New York or Kremlin or New Delhi or Beijing is not so good. Power should be dispersed locally, and everybody should be empowered to look after themselves. That's what Mahatma Gandhi called it Swaraj, self-government. I am capable of looking after myself. And then I look after my community, the community power, then maybe district power, then little power at the top. And maybe little power of some coordination of maybe some monetary or something else. But majority of power should be as decentralized and as local as possible.
I think that's really important because I think most people who talk about living this kind of life, a life of peace and harmony and all of that, that they're I think it can only happen if there is some centralized world government that makes it happen. And the problem is any government that makes something happen, that's an act of violence in itself.
Yeah.
When you're made to
Yeah.
behave a certain way,
Yeah.
this has to come from our heart.
Yeah.
It has to come from our soul. It has to
Exactly.
come from the soil. It has to come from the depths of our being in
Exactly.
order for it to ever work. It's
Yeah.
really, really important what
Yeah.
you're saying
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even spirituality should not be imposed on people. That you have to be spiritual.
Right.
You can't do that. It has to grow out of your soul, out of your spirit, out of your consciousness, out of your heart. It has to grow. And so that is a much better way than telling people, behave like this, otherwise you are put in jail. So that kind of threat is no good. So I would say Mahatma Gandhi's vision was the same, that power should be decentralized, more local, local economy, and also simple life. We are always looking for higher and higher and higher living standard. And that's why my third idea in my Trinity, soil society, we need a society which is more organized on the principle of simplicity, elegant simplicity, where we have a beauty and things are good, but they last for a long time. And they should be beautiful, should be useful, should be durable, and not wasteful. And everything like a circular economy, everything coming from nature should go back to nature, and no waste, no pollution, no climate change, no global warming. So that the elegant simplicity is the principle of society. We need to love every human being, look after our people, and people should not be forced to higher, more economic growth, higher and higher salary. How much are you earning? If you're earning $1 million, not enough. You have to earn 2 million or 3 million or 5 million. You have to be Bill Gates or Elon Musk or some big rich people. Then they are prestige and they are respected. I would say Jesus Christ said holy poverty, holy simplicity. And we have to live simple life so that others may simply live. And so that's the kind of society that we have to create. We need to have a society where values are more human rather than materialistic.
So what's the bridge? How do we get there? I think that's what people are always kind of stuck with. Here we're in this material world and we've been ingrained in it. There's so much conditioning. And then when I read your book, it's like, oh, this feels so good. I just feel it feels, sweet and wonderful. And is that I love this world. And then how do we get there, do you think?
I mean, there is no magic bullet point that you can get there. We have to start with ourselves. We have to be
Yes.
the radiator of change. We have to be the change that we want to see in the world. Every one of us. Every one of us think Biden should change, Trump should change, Putin should change, Wall Street should change, business should change. But what about me changing? We don't think about
Right.
ourselves. So my formula is each and everyone have to be the light. Each and everyone has to be the radiator of change. And so we start with ourselves. That's the first thing to do. Start with yourself. Be the change that you want to see in the world. The second point is to communicate. At the moment, our communication is very poor. Business is very good with communication. And the social media communication is all about materialism and all about consumerism and advertising. Billions and billions of pounds and dollars and euros are spent on advertising Coca Cola or McDonald's or Kentucky Chicken or Blue Jeans or Nike or whatever, Apple or whatever you are advertising. Whereas our communication about compassion, kindness, ecology, environment, spirituality, very little communication. And the communication is very either dogmatic and very kind of in a very kind of old-fashioned way. So we need to learn to communicate in a very effective way. So people say, "Oh yes, I see the point. I can live a simple, good life and still be happy." But this message is not there. At the moment, the message is have more money that will make you happy. Have more cars and
Mhm.
more computers and big house and a holiday house that will make you happy. That communication has to change. And we need to learn to communicate our message more strongly. And the third point, how to get there, is organize. We need to work together. We, at the moment, the movement for change is very scattered, very isolated, very disconnected. Everybody's doing just their own thing and not supporting each other. All big movements have been successful when they were united. Martin Luther King, I had a pleasure of meeting him. He had thousands of people working with him. And the racial equality movement and racial justice movement was very united. And this is why we have so much effort that one day Barack Obama, a black man, was able to get in the White House. So that was a result. Also, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, those movements were united. At the moment, the ecology movement, the environmental movement, the social justice movement is not very united. Feminine movement was united. Feminists were good, and the place of women is much better today than 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so, how the feminist movement came, and how the anti-race movement, racism movement came, and how anti-imperialism movement came, and anti-apartheid movement came. In the same way, we need a movement for spirituality, elegant simplicity, and an ecology, soul society. If we can work together, then we can impact the earth. So be the change, communicate the change, and unite for the change, and then I think change will come. But also, we have to act without expecting results. Results are
Mhm.
not in our hands. We have to do what we can to best of our ability as a service to humanity, as out of our love and compassion and kindness, and offering as a gift to the world. And then what the results will be, we don't know. We plant the seed today, and maybe the fruit of our trees will be enjoyed by our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren. So we have to do good things today so that society in 20, 30, 50 years' time be a better place. So that's how we have to
Mhm.
have detachment. But at the same time, being the change, communicating the change, and organizing for change is the way to bring about a real transformation in the world.
Yeah, I have to say that I have seen some peace movements that are operating within a war paradigm.
Yes.
Like like we're all about peace and those people are bad. We need to stop those people. Those people need to go away. We're all about peace. Those are our enemies. It's like so there's something that's kind of disconnected with
Yeah.
some of the movements. And
Yeah.
so to me we have to go way back into the soul, the inner stuff, and like you said, it's all about love. It's all about love. So even if you don't like what those people are doing over
Yeah.
there, it's not about we will have peace as long as they're gone. I see that in a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see that in a lot of quote, peace
Yeah.
movements,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so to me, there's something that has to go way back into teaching our children to love life, recognize all beings have a right to live,
Yes.
not just beings, all beings have a right to live, including the spider and the mouse and the eagle and the tree and,
Yeah.
those that we consider to be nuisances,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether it's
We
wolves or
have to
bears or
recognize the intrinsic value of life, intrinsic value
yes,
of nature. The value of nature is not just because it's useful to humans. Nature has its own intrinsic value. Spiders,
yes,
insects, slugs, um, uh, uh, animals of all kinds, and insects of all kinds, and nature of all kinds. They have right to live. We talk about human rights. We also have to talk about
yeah,
rights of nature. Rivers have rights, forests have rights, animals have rights, humans have rights. Everybody has right to live. Right to life is the basic fundamental right of everybody. And as you say, you cannot make peace with out of hatred of people who are engaged in war. You have to bring peace through peaceful means. The means and the ends must congruent. Means and ends cannot be separated because we always want good ends, but we don't follow good means. And so means and ends must have a kind of harmony together. And so we have to make peace with people who are there today and say how we can transform our world and find our solutions over a cup of tea and talk to each other. And whoever you are, I will have tea with you. That is the kind of approach we need to have rather than saying, no, no, you get rid of this or that and then you will have peace in the world. No, you don't want to get rid of anybody. You want to transform
I
yourself
love
and
that.
others.
Have tea with me. Now that have tea with me. I've been saying the same thing. It's just so important that we stay connected. There's so many ways that the world is trying to divide us, whether it's politically or around our any kind of beliefs or anything. And it's so important that we do everything possible to stay connected and to have tea with each other. I
Yes.
love that
Yeah, yeah,
idea.
yeah,
Have
yeah,
tea with me.
yeah, yeah. You know, when I was walking around the world, one day in Georgia near the Black Sea, I met two women and they invited me to their tea factory and they gave me tea. And one woman went out of the room and came back with 4 packets of tea and she wanted to give me. And I thought, thank you. But said, they are not for you. For whom are they? I asked. Please give 1 packet of this peace tea to our premier in the Kremlin. Second packet of tea, peace tea, to the president of France in Palais Elysee. Third packet of tea to the prime minister of England in 10 Downing Street. Fourth packet of tea to the president of the United States of America in the White House. I was so amazed. This woman in near the Black Sea, a small village in a factory, having such a big idea. And then she said, please give them a message from me. And I said, what is your message? My message to them is that if you ever get a mad thought of pressing the nuclear button, please stop for a moment and have a fresh cup of tea. and invite your opponent on whom you are going to drop your bombs and go to war. Invite your opponent to have a fresh cup of tea with you and talk to your opponent first. And if you can solve your problem or over a cup of tea, then you don't have to use the bomb. Talking and tea together is more powerful than tanks and bombs. So have a tea. So that was the message. So I delivered the packet of peace tea in the Kremlin. I delivered the packet of peace tea in the White House and asked them to have a fresh cup of tea and peace tea. In Japan, there's always a tea ceremony. Every cup of tea is a cup of peace. Every cup of tea is a cup of love. So that's the kind of soul society is based in that cup of tea. That you bring cup of tea together, and then you can look after the soil. A tea comes from the soil, and then when you are drinking together, you nourish your soul, and you are making friendship with any nationality, any religion, any political philosophy, any economic system. Doesn't matter. You have tea together. And that's the kind of society. So tea is a very fundamental to my new trinity for our time: soil, soul, and society. Have tea.
I think that's fabulous. I think that's fabulous. Soil, soul, and society.
Yeah, society. That's right. Very good.
Oh, that's great. Oh, yeah, you said, I mean, looking at some of your book, you wrote in, I can't remember where this was, much of the current environmental movement is driven by fear of doom and disaster. That cannot be the right motivation for a truly sustainable future. Love and reverence for the earth will automatically result in sustainability, coherence, and harmony. And I wanted to point that out because I do think that there's a lot of doom and disaster and making people afraid, and people get paralyzed with fear. Oh, we're all going to die, and then they fear death, and then they fear each other. And I think the way you approach your pilgrimage, like if I die on my peace pilgrimage, what a beautiful death that is. You
Yes,
had no
exactly,
fear of
exactly. Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thing is that lots of our activists who are activists for peace or for ecology or environment act out of anger, anxiety,
Yes.
fear,
Yes.
and that is disabilitating. I want our activists to have active hope and act out of love: love of planet, love of people, love of yourself, love of future generations, love at every level. That is the message of religions and peace movement and ecology movement and Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, who you name it. Everybody has taught one thing: that you have to act out of love. Nelson Mandela was in prison for 27 years, and he was given many chances to go out of prison and don't talk about anything. So, no, I love my people. And because of my love for people, I will be prepared to suffer but not give up. So that determination comes out of love. How long can you be in anger? You cannot be in prison for 27 years and live in anger. You have to let go of anger, let go of fear, let go of anxiety, and act out of love. Martin Luther King, I met him. He was embodiment of love and love for. He said, "I don't hate white people. I just want them to integrate and love everybody and not have racism." But he loved white people. Mahatma Gandhi loved British people. He was against racism and colonialism and imperialism, but not against white people. So we have to have love as the fundamental organizing principle of our movement: ecology movement and environment movement and peace movement. And activists should not act out of anger or fear or anxiety, but should act out of love.
Yes, I really agree. I say the same thing. I get involved in the vegan movement here in the US, and I say it has to be a movement of love. This is about love, compassion for everybody,
Yes.
not just compassion for animals.
Yeah.
You can't hate the people who are treating the animals poorly. You have to love them also. We
Yeah.
have to love them also.
Yeah.
You can't just you so it has to be a movement of love. Any successful movement has to be a love because because that's who we are. Don't you think that's who we are
That's what we
fundamentally?
are. Yeah, yeah. I mean, world is sustained by love. I, I mean, in a 24 hours day, how long do you can stay in anger? majority of time we are in love. We look after our children, we look after our husband, our wife, our parents, our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues. We work with them, we love them, and we eat with them, we have a tea with them. Our life is sustained by love. Our life is maintained by love, not anger and fear. And out of 8 billion people, how many people are in war? Only a few 100,000.
Yeah.
7.5 billion people are at peace. Farmers are producing food, doctors are looking after health, teachers are teaching children, parents are looking after their babies. Everybody's looking after each other. And that's a love. And love is the most organizing principle and most powerful force in the world. But people don't recognize it. People, to our newspapers, only give you
Deserve.
miserable news. New York Times is a miserable Times, and the Washington Post is a miserable Post. They all give you miserable news. They don't tell you that there's a real humanity at the grassroots level, and people are basically good, and they look after each other, and we forget it. And we only give news how the fighting is going and how people are killing each other. But that's a very small minority. The majority of people, and majority of the time, they are acting out of love.
That's a really important point. I do think we forget that all the time, that most of the time we're acting out of love. And most of the people on the planet are not at war. And most of the people who are at war don't even want to be at war. They're kind
Exactly,
of forced into
exactly,
that
exactly.
circumstance. And we do focus on the negative. You also talk in your book about, the basis of all the problems in the world basically is our negative thinking.
Yeah,
And that we focus on that. We say that's what the world is. And then we get really overwhelmed and afraid. And I think as long as we're overwhelmed and afraid, we're forgetting who we really are. And we're forgetting that who we really are is love. And that's where we spend most of our time. And what a wonderful thought that is, that that's where most people spend most of their time,
exactly, exactly.
their life, expressing
Yeah,
love, or at least seeking love. Yeah.
yeah. And when you cook with love, this is celebration of life, celebration of family. When you garden with love, this is celebration of nature. Well, love brings celebration. Love brings joy. Love brings mutuality, reciprocity. We work together. If there's no love, there's no mutuality, no reciprocity, no celebration, no family coming together. So all our life is actually dependent on love, but we forget. We take sometimes love for granted and say, "Oh, how I love!" But you are actually a loving person. Everybody, we cannot survive without love. Love is earth, air, fire, water, and love. These are the five elements which sustain life.
So I love that. That's great.
Nothing can exist without love.
Right. Right. I mean, I think that in the Christian Judeo tradition where God like breathes life into existence. It's the breath of God that sustains life.
Yeah,
And that is love.
that
Like
is
life
love.
and love, it's the same thing. It's like
Yeah,
everything is here
yeah,
because there is this breath of this energy that
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
sustaining and creating and guiding
yeah,
and loving
yeah,
and caring and
yeah.
inspiring us all the
Exactly,
time.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that unfortunately a lot of people the scientism or the materialism has taught them otherwise, that it's something other than love. And I remember having a conversation once with one of my daughter's boyfriends. Luckily, she didn't marry him. He couldn't define love. It's like, if you're with my daughter, you can't define love. You don't know what love is, or you can't experience what love is, express
Love,
what
the
it is.
defining love is in a way quite simple. Love is acceptance of yourself as you are, acceptance of other person as other person is, without judgment, without criticism, without comparing, without all those things. You accept every person is unique divine being. And you have to love them as they are without being judgment that, oh, you are not right, or you are doing this, or you are doing that, or you are wrong, you are right. All that is our judgment. Judge not. That's the kind of Jesus Christ teaching. Judge not, so that you might
Yeah.
not be judged. And so if you do not judge, if you do not be judgmental and accept yourself as you are, as a divine being, and accept every human being as they are, as a divine being, and love them, respect them, accept them. Acceptance is the key, and understanding is the key to love. Acceptance and understanding, and not expectation and not criticism, and not comparison, and not judgment. That's love. It's very simple. And loving yourself as important as loving others. Because Jesus says that love your neighbor as you love yourself. So loving yourself, we have forgotten to love ourselves. We don't, we criticize ourselves, we condemn ourselves, we judge ourselves, and that's not good. We are a special being. We are a child of God on this planet Earth. And we have to celebrate our life. And we are a seed like an acorn. We can become a tree by growing and by enhancing our potential, and we can become a great poet, a great writer, a great singer, a great dancer, a great cook, a great gardener, a great mother, a great father. Whatever we want to be, we can be great in our body. We can be great. We are children of God. That we have to understand. And that's, in a way, the message of my book is the love soil, love soul, love yourself, and love everybody, society. And that way, we can have a beautiful world as a gift.
Well, that kind of sums it up. I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. And I think you are such an embodiment of the spiritual life. That's what I love about you is that you're not talking about stuff. You're living it. You are it. You've lived it from the beginning. From your being a monk to doing your pilgrimage to having time with, the Gandhi people and Martin Luther King and all of that. I mean, it's an amazing life, a life very well lived.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. No, it has been a pleasure to speak with you and be interviewed by you. Thank you, Carol.
I'm wondering, do you have a copy of your book with you?
Yes,
I'm wondering if you'd be willing to close with the whole body prayer on page 29.
okay, I'll bring the book. Page 29.
It's a whole body prayer that you wrote.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe it's 20, page 20. Sorry.
20, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yes,
It doesn't
yes,
fit.
yes. There's a whole body prayer. Yeah. Let's get a bit of light.
I
Yes.
should have mentioned this before we
No
started. I thought
problem,
that'd be
no
a nice
problem. Yeah.
emoji.
Okay. So my whole body prayer is, may our legs be strong and steady. May our feet tread softly on the earth. May our stomach be small and soft. May our belly be full of fire. May our heart be large and loving. May our soul be simple and serene. May our mind be calm and clear. May our spirit be free of fear. May our mouth mint sweet words and kind kisses. May our eyes see beauty below, beauty above, and beauty all around. May our ears hear words of praise and music of the cosmos. May our hands be generous in giving and grateful in receiving. May our arms find joy in embracing. May our body be a temple of love.
That's
Thank
so
you, thank you,
beautiful.
thank you, thank you for asking me to read it. I'm very happy to have written that.
Yes. And
Because
there's a
for
lot of
me,
beautiful things.
our bodies are temple of spirit, temple of soul, temple of love. Without this body, we cannot love, we cannot express our spirit. And so our bodies, I love our bodies and I celebrate our bodies.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for being with me, Satish. You're such a blessing.
Thank you,
And
thank you.
I loved your book and I do highly recommend it. And I love the vision that you have. And I think when people start to read it, they start to, it's almost like a dream that becomes, it's like familiar, like, oh gosh, like I remember that world, or I remember, who I am. I think it's really good at awakening us to what we know in our soul is our truth, but we've just forgotten.
Yes, yes.
So thank you for creating the vision for us.
Thank you, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I know you are blessed, and I now close the Spiritual Forum.